Hi everybody, how are you today? I haven't released a video in a few days. I've been suffering with bad allergies and sinus migraines. Not fun at all, and I just been crocheting my days away trying to keep my mind occupied. So apologies, because I like to make sure I get usually a video every day or at least every second day, and I didn't do that, and I'm sorry about that for all those that were looking forward to some. So hopefully, touch wood, I got wood in my hand, hopefully I can get through this week without another episode. I started taking the one a day, like reactin type stuff, so hopefully that keeps it at bay enough. I'm used to the headaches. I get them all the time, but they're very, how do you say that, debilitating, or a word like that, like where it's just, I just can't do anything. I can't think. It hurts to think, it hurts to move. So I just pretty well try to help the day just go by quicker. I usually would put something on my forehead, like some Vicks, or sometimes I put like a tight headband around my head, help myself feel better. But nothing just seemed to work. And it was, the only good part is, normally I suffer with that like 5 days out of 7 for the last 15 years, and it has been very few and far between this year, so I'm pretty lucky that way. So I'll take the 3 days over the 5 days anytime. So I have had some breaks, so I've been pretty lucky this year. Anyway, on to today's video. What we're talking about, not my headaches, sorry. I have been promising some table leg and or chair leg socks, I guess you call them. This one here is fits 8 to 9 inch around table legs, or maybe you have that thick of chair legs too. But I'll be teaching you how to make this size, the 8 to 9 inch, also the 6.5 to 7.5 inch, and then this one here, that is a 4.5 to 5.5. It might fit a little bit smaller. If you could stretch, it might fit a little bit, like if you could stretch it over top your chair leg, if it's smaller, it'll fit on. And if it's larger also, your chair leg, you might be able to still squeeze it on as well. Smaller, definitely, you just have to tighten the ties. I teach you how to make the ties as well. And there's 4 pieces to this, so I'll teach you how to make that. And after, just wanted to show you how they work on. See, I just tie them in a bow, but yeah, these ones, this chair leg, just so you know, I'll show you in a second how to measure, but this chair leg here is 4 inches around in circumference, and this is to fit actually a friend of mine's chair legs that are 5.5 inch. So that just goes to show you how much of a difference of play you can have, eh? So these fit on so easily, so it doesn't matter that they're smaller and this is larger. You tie them on and they stay solid and move around. So depending on what color, I'm going to just show you in the gray, and then I'm going to tell you how to I'll take this off. First, I should tell you, before I tell you more about this, I'm going to show you how to measure. So you take your chair leg, doesn't matter if it's square or round, okay? So the square ones might be you might want to play around with the pattern a little bit. I'll tell you how to increase, decrease. Even if you make a mistake and it doesn't fit on, it really doesn't take long to just try one and then take it all apart. You're not going to waste any materials. Just pull it all apart, like frog it, and then do another size. I've did them for square legs the same way, even though the bottoms are round, okay? You could still do them round, but you just, when we measure around, it's going to be, it's hard to explain really, but even if it's square, it'll work. Okay, so what you do is, you don't want to measure just across, because that's not going to tell you anything. You're going to want to measure around the leg at the thickest part in the first 4 inches. So we're making them 4 inches tall, so you want to take the thickest part that is in that 4-inch span. Okay, so say up here is thicker than down below, you want to take the thicker measurement of it. But if it's down here, take that thicker measurement. For mine, it's a little bit thicker up here than it is down here. So I'll measure just around like this. Okay, and that gives me my measurement of inches. So for me here, it is 3 3/4 inches. So you just lay the measuring tape, if you could tell, on top of each other so you can see the measurement basically. So you just don't want to measure across, because especially if it's square, it might be a rectangle, and if you're measuring across, it just doesn't work. So as I was saying, for this, I'm going to show you, we start at the bottom, and sometimes how I've played with the pattern. This is my own pattern. So how I've played with it, I've had 2 orders this week, or in the last couple weeks. And the one order, my friend has, her front 2 legs are a smaller size than the back 2 legs of her chair. So I had to do 2 different sizes for hers. And then the friend that I have for these ones had wanted on her table as well, so that's the 9-inch, and then she has 8-inch round stools, and then her chairs are all 5.5-inch. So I have 50 of her order, so 50 times 4 pieces for each one. Yeah, I know it took quite a long time. I had 18 of these guys to do, and I had 32 of this size to do. And the other friend, she already picked hers up. I believe I showed a photo before of what hers looked like, and hers were all in black. But what I basically do is do the bottoms, and I do half of the amount that I need to do after I've already tested to make sure that they turn out the proper size of round. So how you want to do it is make the circle part, and you're playing with different hook sizes and different amounts of increases. So for instance, I started I started with a 4mm hook, and then I did the increases to a certain size, and then I would bind off, then make a second one, because they're double thick. I use 2 pads, 2 circles, and I sew them together. I don't sew them, scratch that, there's like barely any sewing in this. I stitch them together so that they're like an Oreo cookie type thing, and I slip stitch around, okay, just to get them attached together. And then I start making the body, and as you could tell, once you start making the body, it widens it. Okay, so that's why you don't want to just make a whole bunch of the circles and then think that that's the size that you're going to need, because you probably will be disappointed that it's not going to fit, because it widens, okay, at the top once you get the top part on. I mean, you could switch, when you do the top part, you could switch to a even smaller hook to make it even tighter around. That's another option as well. There's so many different variations to it. So the sizes that I did, I will tell you when I'm showing you how to do the bottoms. That'll be the first part of the video. Oh, excuse me, pardon me. I'll be telling you which size hook for which and where to stop for how many increases for the certain size. Now, of course, that's the gauge that I have. I find I'm right, or I'm not a real loose crocheter, and I'm not a real tight crocheter. So this will be a great opportunity to see how bang right on or close you are to how I crochet. So, but like I said, the difference is just a couple hours just to try to figure out if how many increases, I guess, if they're going to fit on your chairs or your tables or such as. It's really difficult to explain, but we're going to just jump right in and then show you how to figure out where you need to be for your chairs and tables. Yeah, these ones are, you see that's basically, if you've ever did a single crochet hat and you've did the increase part from the top down, that's basically what these are, okay, the bottoms. So like you're going into a magic loop and or you can do the second or go into the second chain from the hook, but I'm going to show you the magic circle. And you're going to do 8 single crochets. Then the next round you're going to do 2 single crochets into each single crochet around. That's all that I did for this bottom. I stopped there, and this was using a 4mm hook. So when I used a 5mm hook, that was using a 5mm hook. Okay, so I did up to and including 2 single crochets in each single crochet around. So I ended at 16 single crochets around, and this turned out to be that size, up to 5.5 inch around chair leg. Now I also did one with a 4mm hook, and I did up to and including, after that round of 2 single crochets in each single crochet around, I did next round was 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, all the way around. Okay, and that was, and then I used the 4mm hook to do the top part, and those ended up at 7 inches for a round for a chair leg that was 7 inches. So this one was 8 to 9 inch table legs. So this one I used a 4mm crochet hook, okay, and I did up to including what I just said, the single crochet, single crochet, 2 single crochets, single crochet, 2 single crochets, did that all the way around. Then I did the next round as single crochet, 2 single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, 2 single crochet, and I did that all the way around to make these round circles, and I stopped there, and then I went to attach. So from there I'll show you how to create these. Join me in my filming room to learn how to make these. And I'm back. In order to make the chair socks, I call them, okay, you'll need a tapestry needle. You'll have one end to sew in. That is it. When you're at the very top part, that's the only end you're going to have to sew in. You'll need a 5 or a 4mm, maybe even a 6mm hook, depending on your gauge. Okay, so you're going to play around with your sizing. Pair of scissors and a measuring tape. Now for the measuring tape, on how to measure when you're done for the width, of course you measure across, okay, your chair sock when it's completed. When you're at the top part of your double crochets, you measure across and you multiply that by 2, and that is how the circumference on your chair leg. So here this is 4.5 inches, so that's 9 inches. Okay, so this will fit a 1/2 inch lower, it'll be just tighter, or a 1/2 inch higher, which is 9 inch, or 9.5 inch, and that will be just or one will be looser, one will be tighter, is what I'm basically trying to say. So you have a little an inch leeway, 1/2 inch on each side of your measurement. So this together, 4.5 times 2 is 9 inches. So I could go 8.5 to 9.5 inches for that one. And this one here should be, this one here shows 2.5 inches. So that's 5 inches. So this will fit 4.5 to 5.5 inches wide around. Okay, so let's start creating. I forgot to tell you, I'll be using Red Heart Super Saver. You can use any type of yarn you choose. If you use a number 3 yarn, you're just going to have to use smaller hook and do more increases on the bottom part. But you could use a chunkier yarn, also use a larger hook and do less increases on the bottom as well. That's totally up to you. Okay, so this is Red Heart Super Saver. And I'm going to tell you when to stop for each size that I've did. Okay, so I've got some here. This is the size for this size here that I did. So I'll tell you how to make that size and when to stop. I'm just going to be doing it in the gray yarn, okay? And then I'm going to tell you this size and how to stop for this size. And then there's one in between the two. So for 6.5 to 7.5 inch, I'll tell you when to stop for that one. Actually, that one there, the 6.5 to 7.5, you will just do like a different increase in between. There's one that's missing here, and I'll tell you when to stop in order to make that size there, okay? So first we're gonna make a magic circle. If you've never made a magic circle, I'll try to do one as slowly as I can to show you. How I do is I place it in my hand. Like if you don't know, want a better video on how to teach you how to do it, I don't have one up yet. This is July 2020. Maybe by next year I'll have a series out, but just try to find a good easy pattern or good easy way. Just search on YouTube magic circle or magic loop on how to make it, but I'll show you, try to show you here. Don't know how to teach that yet, but I lay it across my palm like this, okay? And then what I do is I put 2 fingers out and I'm holding it, the yarn with the other 2 fingers, okay? And I just go under those 2 and then back across here, and then I kind of pinch it with my pinky. I hope that was in frame, okay? So here we go. I have the 2 fingers and I wrap and I go under my pinky over there, okay? And then what I do, I flip my fingers over like this, and I'm taking my 4mm hook is what I'm going to be using because for the size I'm using. Now, if you're doing the black ones that are the 4.5 to 5.5 inches, you'll want to use a 5mm crochet hook, okay? That's just for the small size that I made, the black ones. You'll want to use a 5mm, okay, for those. But for this, I'm using a 4mm, okay, to show you how to make the larger sized ones. Those were made with a 4mm. The large ones were made with a 4mm, and the next size down were also, let me think here, 5mm hook. Oh, no, I apologize. The 5mm hook, yeah, is for this black one, and it's made with a 5mm. This is so confusing to me today. The 4mm was the larger size one, and also will be the size down from this as well, okay? But I'm going to be showing you the full size of this. So if you're making just the 4.5 to 5.5mm, or 4.5 to 5.5 inch round ones, you start with a 5mm. For the other 2 sizes that I said, use the 4mm. So I'll be using the 4mm. So we're like this. You're going to want to go under the first loop, okay, over the second loop, and just pull that through. All right. Now you're going to turn your hook a little bit and catch this top part and pull that through there. Pull that right through. All right. Now I'll do that again and show you. So we're like this. We're wrapping it around, tucking it under our pinky, okay? Making an X kind of, okay? You're going underneath this guy, over this guy, and pulling it through, twisting as you come around and pulling that loop through that loop. Then you're just going to pinch underneath and drop all your fingers. And there's the loop. That's the loop you want to have, okay? I also had somebody ask me how I wrap my yarn around my fingers, and this is how I do it. I wrap my pinky once, go up and around all my fingers. I'm trying to think, I do it so fast. She was right. Okay, I wrap it around my pinky, one full rotation, go behind my other 3 fingers. I'm trying to think here. Okay, I do it so often. Okay, go behind my 3 fingers, and that's it. And it's just rested on my pointing finger, okay? So that's wrapping it around and over, and there we go. So we're going to start just by crocheting 8 single crochets in this loop. Now, if you didn't like couldn't follow along the magic circle, or you want to do a chain of 2, and then you just could do 8 single crochets in the first chain that you were created, not the same, like not the one next to the hook, but the second chain from the hook. You'll want to do 8 single crochets in that chain, okay? Otherwise, just do 8 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, I always say I never like to knot my yarn, but I'm going to show you something. In these, it doesn't really matter, okay? So now you're going to take that tail, you're going to hold all the stitches here, and you're going to pull this tail. See how the magic loop just kind of pulls together, eh? So you're going to pull it as tight as you can with the yarn. Like Super Saver's great because it never breaks. It's so sturdy. So you want to pull it tight as you can. And this I knot. Don't tell anybody, okay? I actually put a knot in this work. You're not even ever going to see it. This keeps the hole from reopening or anything, okay? So you want to tuck that tail in behind, and you're going to want to slip stitch to the first single crochet. Okay, there we go. So you have a loop of 8 single crochets around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. You're going to want to chain up 1. Now here's where you go for the, if you're using a 5mm hook, this next row is your last row for your circle, okay? For the black chair legs that I showed you. That's 4.5 to 5.5 inch round table legs. This is going to be your last row that coming up. Okay, so you're going to put 2 single crochets under where you just chained, and 2 single crochets in each stitch around, equaling 16. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I think I just said 11, 13, 14, 15, and 16. I like counting because sometimes you get confused when it gets to the end of the row as to which is your last stitch. So if you're counting, it's foolproof. So then you're going to want to slip stitch into your first single crochet of that round. So now if you're done, you're making the 4.5 to, no, just one second. If you're using the 5mm hook, okay, that's what it is. If you're using the 5mm hook and doing the 4.5 to 5.5mm or inch chair leg, I'm probably confusing the heck out of you. This is where you stop, okay? So you stop when it hits this right now, okay? So you cut your yarn again, and then you follow that around and make a second one. So I'm not going to cut mine because I'm, 1 second, my dog's barking. Sorry about that. Mail lady again. Okay, so if you are making the 6, which size is this next one? So if you're making the 6.5 to 7.5 inch table legs, you're going to do this next round and stop. But if you're making the one that I showed you, the 8.5 to 9.5 inch legs, you're going to do 2 more rounds. But this is the round, the next round that you stop at. But you will also be using a 4mm hook for the next 2. So the next 2 sizes, you don't need to use the 5mm. The 5mm was only for that 4.5 to 5.5 inch table legs, okay? So this next round, you're going to chain 1, and you're going to single crochet into under the chain, okay? And you're going to do 2 single crochets in the next stitch. So you're going to single crochet, and 2 single crochets all the way around. Single, 2 single. I should have brought my yarn bowl in here. Single, 2 single crochets. Single, and an increase. And I'll meet you back at the end. Okay, I'm at the last 2 stitches, which are single, and you'll always finish with an increase on the last one, so you know where your last stitch is. Then you're going to slip stitch to the top of your first single crochet. Now you're done with your 4mm hook if you are using, and your first bottom if you're making the 6.5 to 7.5 inch around chair legs, okay? And you'll want to make 2 of those. So, but if you're making the 8.5 to 9.5 inch table legs, which I am, you're going to want to do the next round also with your, still with your 4mm hook. You're going to chain 1. Under the chain, you're going to single crochet and single crochet in the next, and 2 single crochet. So all the way around, you're going to do single crochet, 2 single crochet. Single crochet, increase. So 2 singles and then an increase. And I'll meet you back at the end. And the same as before, when you hit your last 3 stitches, you'll know. You have a single crochet, and 2 single crochets, and you know you're done when you hit 2 single crochets. As long as you've been paying close attention. Sometimes I've been watching TV and then miscount. So, but you'll know because it lays nice and flat with the increases, okay? So, and also you should know by your stitch count. I believe it's 24. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 28, 30. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 32. I think it's 24 for this, the one before this. So now we're done. So we cut this, leaving just a short tail because we're as I said, we're not sewing, and you're gonna pull through. Okay, just pull it through that last loop, the slip stitch. Okay, now you're gonna make a second. You're gonna rewind the video, and you're gonna go back and you're gonna do a second one like this. Okay, and then come back here and I'll show you how to put them together. Okay, so now we're putting them together. You don't want to, if you're doing, I wanted to show you how to take, how to fasten off, I guess you want to say, your circle. But because when you're making your second one is what I want to say, you can keep it attached to your ball, okay? So because I showed you how to take it off, I cut my yarn. I shouldn't have cut my yarn is what I'm basically saying. So I'm going to just add my yarn back on, okay, just for the sake of the video. And I'm going to just let my tails down there. So say you're on your second one and you left it onto your ball of yarn, which I recommend you do. So basically what I did before was I had 16 chair legs to make, and so I knew I had 32 bottoms to make. So what I did is I made 8 and I cut all 8 off, okay? I cut them off from the ball of yarn and I put all 8 aside. Then I started making my next set of 8, but I did them one at a time. So when I did the first one, instead of darning off, I just left my yarn on. So I'm on my 9th circle and I kept my yarn on. I didn't cut it, okay? So then what I did was I chained 1 and I go in under the chain, and then I took my second one out of the pile of 8 that I had, and I flipped it so that the tail end here is facing me, okay? And then I put it in any stitch around. I just attach it, okay? There's so many tails here. This probably looks confusing. I apologize. I think you'll get the gist of it. Okay, so they're sandwiched together is basically what I'm trying to get you to do. So my hook, again, I'll show you again in case you're confused. I go under the same as the chain one that I just did. I go underneath that one and I pull this, the second one, and I just put it in any stitch around. Okay, and then you yarn over and pull through all the 2 stitches and pull through, because we're going to slip stitch around. All those tail ends don't matter, because you know what we're going to do? We're going to tuck those all inside and you're never going to see them. Now, if you don't want them double thick, you can just do one single and do them as well. But everybody that I've made them for enjoys the double thickness of them. So when they're sliding their chairs around, it's much nicer. So, but if you want easier, just go for the single and then follow what I teach on after this round. After we slip stitch on here, then you could do the body. But the slip stitching here, you won't need to do if you're doing just one single bottom, okay? So all you're going to do with the slip stitching, if you need to mark where that first stitch is, this first slip stitch, you can go ahead and do that. Here, I'm going to pull this through and I'm going to actually show you with a spare piece of yarn, okay, from a different color. And I'm just going to pull that through and use that as a stitch marker. So we'll see when we get to there, okay? So if you use a bobby pin, use a bobby pin. If you use a stitch marker, go ahead and use that. Now we're going to slip stitch 31, was it 30? Did I say 32 it was all the way around? I believe so. Yes, 32. We're going to slip stitch 31 more times all the way around, okay? So how you slip stitch is you go into the front, you go into the both loops of this circle and the both loops of the next circle. So you have 4 loops on your hook and you yarn over and pull through them all and pull through that loop. You're not single crocheting at all. You're just pulling right through. So go through all 4, yarn over, pull through them all, make sure it's nice and loose and pull through. Just keep pulling. You don't want it really, really tight. If you want a single crochet, you can do so also. I don't think it's going to make a big difference. You can single crochet if you prefer. I wouldn't double crochet or half double crochet at this point. I would just either do a slip stitch or single. Okay. The slip stitching, you're going to have a little bit of a ridge, like this. See how there's a bit of a ridge with the slip stitching? And with the other way, you're not going to have that. So with this, so I'll meet you back here with the slips when I'm done the slip stitching row here. Oh, before we get to the end, I wanted to show you, I just finished till there's a little bit of an opening. So it's all attached here, okay? And see all my tail ends? Not my stitch marker, I want to keep those out. All I do is tuck them all inside. This is the part where I say there's no minimal sewing. There's only one tail end. This is why. Okay, so just tuck them all nice in there. Hold it together and finish stitching, slip stitching, or if you chose to single crochet around, if you found that easier. Okay, so you're going to count, if you wanted to count, just so you knew that you hit 32, so you know when you get to the last one. I know I left a stitch marker there, but some people find it tricky to tell which one's the last stitch. I'm at 31 and 32, making sure to go through both thicknesses every single time. So here's my stitch marker. That's my first slip stitch. Okay, so I'm going to go into there and slip stitch to get ready for my next round. I could take out my stitch marker now. So now this is for the main body. Now you can play with this. You can make your bottom one size with one size of hook and then upsize if you need it bigger for the top part. But this is I just use the same size hook. Okay, so now you're going to want to chain up 3 and you're going to want to go into the next stitch, but I do the next round in the back loops only. So you're going to find the back loops, Okay, so that's the back loop of the slip stitch. It's a little tricky sometimes. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like if you catch two of them, because there's going to be 2 back loop onlys, okay? But you just catch whatever. See, just basically you're just wanting it to show that. So you're just going to back loop only into every stitch. So count 32 all the way around. You're just basically doing the bottom stitch, not, see how this has the V stitches all on the top from the slip stitch? You're just going to want to go into the back 1 or 2 loops. There is 2 because we have the double thickness, so you can go through 2 or 1. It doesn't really matter. So go all the way around, and I'll meet you back when I get back to the last stitch. I don't know if I'm still recording. Just one sec. So I made it all the way around and I counted my stitches, okay? Then you're going to slip stitch into the 3rd chain. Sometimes it's tricky if you chain your chain tight, okay? You slip stitch into your shared chain. Now you're going to want to flip this back like this so that that ridge is going to be on your bottom, okay? So you're going to flip it up so it's like a little cup. So you see that nice pretty ridge. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to chain up 3, and this you're going to do, let me count how many rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to want to do for 6 more rows, okay? This row here. So you're going to repeat this row for 6 full rows. You're going to double crochet into each back loop, double crochet. So all the way around, you're gonna double, look at me go. I know people are watching me, that's why, right? That always seems to happen. So you're gonna want to double crochet all, I don't know why this yarn seems to be splitting on me today. You're going to be wanting to double crochet all the way around, and then when you get to the end of the row, you're going to want to slip stitch into the 3rd chain. And do that for 6 complete rows. I have one here that I've already at that point. Okay, so I'll pause the video if you need to pause, because I'm going to show you where I'm done. So go ahead and press pause until you get to where you need to be to meet me back. All right, so I'm finished. I'm just adding my yarn. Okay, I did this ahead of time. I did my 6 rows of the double crochet all the way around and slip stitching into my 3rd chain. The next row, the 7th row, I want you to chain up 4. 3, 4. Then you're going to yarn over. You're going to skip the next stitch and double crochet into the next. Then you're going to chain 1, skip 1, and double crochet in the next. Now you're going to do this all the way around. You're going to chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next, chain 1, whoops, chain 1, skip 1, double crochet in the next, all the way around. I'll meet you back up when I get to the end. Okay, I'm almost near the end. I'm double crocheting. Then my last one is a chain 1, and I have an odd number here. Now this is where you could always fake it, okay? Actually, I don't. Okay, no, I just have the 1 stitch. So I chained 1 after my last double crochet. You're going to have a hole, you're going to leave an empty double crochet there, and you're going to just slip stitch into your 3rd chain of the chain 4. Okay, you're going to find your third chain, 1, 2, 3, and you're going to slip stitch into that third chain, and that leaves a chain 1 on this side and a chain 1 on this side for your holes. Okay, now you're going to, oh no, we're not going to darn, what am I almost cut my yarn. Don't do that. Your next row, you're going to chain 3, and you're going to yarn over, and you're going to double crochet in the middle of that space, and you're going to double crochet into the on top of the next double crochet. Okay, then you're going to double crochet in the space, and then in your next double crochet. You can also, if you choose, double crochet into there, but I always just double crochet into the middle space there. So you could do that. Oh, I hope I didn't knock you so you're crooked, sorry. So do that all the way around, and I'll meet you back at the end again, just basically putting 2 double crochets in each of those little sections, so wherever you choose to put them. Okay, and I'll meet you back here. And I'm coming up around the end. I'm just putting 2 in this hole, 1 there, 1 on the top of the double crochet, and then my last one goes into this space here, the last space. And then you're single or slip stitching into the top of the chain, the third chain from the hook there, or the third chain of the first chain. Okay, and then we're done. Well, we're not done. We're done the crocheting part of this. So you're going to leave a little tail about 6 to 8 inches for sewing. This is the only tail we have to sew in. Can you believe that? You're still going to need your yarn in a minute, but now you're going to take your yarn and you're going to put it on the darning needle, and you're basically going to hide your ends in. So what I like to do is I like to make sure that I go through a lot of different layers. So I find I weave it in until I can get to a space where there's all the stitching. You see the double crochet stitching. So I go through all of these, and I go the length of my darning needle. Okay, so I go the length of my darning needle. See how it's just a little bit there? And then I pull it through, not real tight, because you don't want to pull it so it, see if I pull it too tight, I'm cinching it, right? So you don't want to do that. You just pull it so it comes through. Then you want to go the opposite direction for the second time through some, and the third time. Now I've never had them, I've had the yarn ends come out, but never weave all the way through the 3, never, in any of my crochet or knitted pieces. So then you just make sure that the end there, when you give it a little tug, that the end pops in, and you trim it, making sure to not cut your work. Oh my gosh, that would be disastrous. So here we have the finished product, and if we measure it, this should measure the 4.5 inches. So remember, 4.5 times 2 is 9, so it'll fit a 1/2 inch lower and a 1/2 inch higher. So whatever yours ends up to be, that's you. It'll fit a 1/2 inch, like times 2. So 4.5 inches times 2 is 9. So it'll fit a 9-inch chair. It'll fit a 8.5 or a 9.5. Okay, or anything in between the 8.5 and 9.5. So next we have to make the tie. Okay, so what basically what the tie is all it is a chain. Okay, so if you made the smallest sized one, you're just going to chain 75 chains to make this one long enough to make a bow. Now if you made the second size or the largest size, you're going to want to make 100 chains in order to weave it through. I'm going to walk you through how to make it. I just wanted to make sure you knew that you can make it longer if you like a bigger bow, but you don't, it's not necessary for the smallest size. Just do 75 chains. But we're going to work up. Here's, I'll show you. There's a chain of 100. So I'm going to show you how we made that, okay? So you don't need a long tail, okay? This is how I do my starting of a chain. I wrap my finger twice, back over the front, and drop it off, and then pull, okay? And then pull. Now this part doesn't matter if you use a 4 or 5 millimeter crochet hook. You could even use higher or lower, whichever you like. You're basically gonna chain 100. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As you notice, I go do it in 5s, 4, 5, and then I move my thumb pinching the top one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 25. I'll meet you back here when I have 100. Okay, so I have 100. I've already cut my end by mistake before I didn't hit the pause but unpause button. Okay, so I have just, you don't need a long tail again because you're just going to leave it anyway. You just pull that through the last chain and then pull to tighten, okay? So there you have the 2 ends. You can make those as long as you like. I will just trim these actually myself, just so they're small. They don't need to be long, okay? So now what you're going to do is you're going to take your project, you're going to go under one and up, and you're going to pull this through, okay? And then you're going to leave a little tail on the one side, then you're going to go in every second stitch and up every second stitch and pull through. You could do this with your fingers if it's easier for you. Every second stitch and go through. You probably noticed my yarn ends from that time I tied it off, right? This one I'm not using. This one wasn't, I'm not using this one. Yep, so every second, see that it's coming up this one. I don't go in this one, I go in the next one and then up the next one so that I pull it down and up, and I end up with this pattern. I end up with one hole. Sometimes I end up with the yarn coming up this hole. If you want that, you could just take it out of this one and pull it through 2 of them. See, I don't have it coming up that one. I have it out so that it's right next to each other. If you want to do that, you can do that. And then when you get it onto the chair, let's say I got something here to show you. I've got some, I don't know what these are, maple and chives dip mix, just to show you. Let's say this is the chair leg, okay? Put it in the chair, say it's on there, tie it like this, and then put it in the bow. Not as easy on a chair, but flip it upside down on your table and you get the idea. So I apologize. I probably should have did 3 separate videos on all the 3 different sizes. It was probably a little confusing to you. I'm just learning how to make the videos to make them user friendly. I hope you weren't too confused. If you have any questions, just let me know down below. Be happy to help. If you think I should make 3 separate videos, or maybe I can do that at a later date when I'm not so crazy busy trying to get content out and have a lot of orders. So maybe I'll try that. But if you're wanting to know specifics, just let me know down below and I'll sure help you there. Again, it all depends on the hook size, your yarn size, and your gauge, of course. So hope you like, comment, subscribe if you liked this. You want to see more tutorials or just have more yarn chats and see more yarns, more yarn hauls, more shopping, and just plain old yarn chat. Love to talk to you soon. So enjoy your day, everybody, and I hope you make some chair legs. Go on to my Facebook group, Knotty Yarnies, and I'll approve you to go into the group, and you can share your chair legs with me. So I'd love to see them all. Take care, everybody, and enjoy your day. Bye for now.